Okay, hello Suzanne. And before I show you how to start this thing, I had to see if I knew what I was actually doing. So I did, you can see here's the initial 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 puff stitches. And then you actually go in a spiral. So you can see from here I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And that took me to my first row. I mean, that was I guess the second row, sorry. And then you go one puff stitch. So one thing I noticed on the pattern when it says increase, and then it says put 2 stitches. It's like, well, what stitches? And then later it says 2 puff stitches. So after I get the second row done, then you can see here's 1 puff stitch by itself, and then these 2, that's an increase inside this puff stitch. And then I put this puff stitch into the top of this one, and then 1, 2 in the top of this one, and then 1 in the top of this one, 1, 2 in the top of this one. So you can see kind of how it's kind of looking. Now I wanted to show you what I figured out for my puff stitch that seems to be working is, I don't know what it would be called, but essentially I yarn over 7 times, either on its own or pulling up a loop. So you always start with a yarn over, and then you go through the top of the stitch. Oops, let me see if I can show you that. Through this top of the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. So that's 1, 2. Well, we're not going to count this one because I didn't add, that was already on there. I didn't add that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oops, 6, and then so that I have 1, 2, well this one, well I have 6 plus the one that was already there. So on my 7th I yarn over, and now on this one I'm going to put it downward so I can pull through all of them. So, and there is my puff stitch. That's 1 puff stitch. Now, I'm on the row where you're supposed to do 1 puff stitch and then an increase and then 1, and now I'm on the increase. I'm going to show you that because I'm almost at the end of the row. You see how this, I would recommend, since you're going in a spiral and it's very easy to lose your place, just grab a alternating color of ribbon, and then every time you get, oops, shoot, and then don't see, not ribbon, yarn. I didn't have an alternating color of yarn, so I used ribbon, which is terrible because it just slides. And now I lost where that came out of, so I'm just going to shove it in there. Okay, it doesn't really matter. I just don't want it to fall out again. Okay, so I'm on my, I have to do an increase in there. I'm going to do 1 more puff stitch. So I'm not counting this one. I yarn over, that's 1. I go through the stitch, yarn over, pull through, that's 2. Yarn over, that's 3. Go through the stitch, yarn over, pull through, that's 4. Yarn over, that's 5. Go through the stitch, yarn over, pull through, that's 6. Now I'm on 6, so my last one is 7, yarn over, and then I always point, I twist my hook so that I'm kind of pointing downwards so I can pull through all of those pretty easily. And that's my finished puff stitch. And that's also the end of the row, because now, if you look, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Sure enough, so that is, and the 18th one, that's where my yarn is going through. So I'm at the end of my row, so you see what I'm just going to do? I'm going to take this piece of yarn and just flip it in front again, and then I'll start my next row, which is puff stitch, and then 2, like an increase. So yarn over, go through and yarn over, go through and yarn over. Oops, I lost that one. Go through and yarn over, go through and yarn over, I think. Or did I do one too many? It doesn't matter. Okay. And so you see how now this one, this stitch, this is my, it was the last stitch, but it's the top of the first stitch in my next row. So now as I'm going through, I'll know that I go all the way around and then I stop. My row is done when I get to this thing, and then I'll put my yarn back through the top of that one, just put it to the back again. So like if I was done, I would just put it to the back like that, and then I would do my next one. So, and that way you can kind of keep track. I don't know, maybe you already knew this and do this, but in case you didn't, I just wanted to let you know that. So, but now I will take this all out. Oh, one other thing before I end this, I wanted to say one thing that one person, in the pattern, it says, let's say we're all done. And it says connect, I think, with a chain stitch. So, yeah. So I'm going to pull through and then pull through this. And then I would cut my yarn. Now, the pattern says to cut your yarn. And then, later on, and then you do the head or something else. And then you come back to this body and you add yarn for the tail. And I think that's dumb to cut the yarn off and then add yarn again. So I would just skip this, maybe even chain another one if you want to make sure that it's kind of flat. I don't know. Maybe you don't want to do that. It's up to you. And then the directions say to do 2 puff stitches and slip stitch them together or something. Oh, slip stitch. That's what I'm trying to say, not chain stitch. But one thing I read talked about doing a popcorn instead. And so that's one thing you could try. I'm going to chain 1 so I get a little bit higher. And there's different ways of doing the popcorn. One way is you start to do a double crochet. So yarn over, pull up go through the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Now, if you were finishing your double crochet, you would yarn over and pull through these 2. But we're going to say, no, I'm not. I'm going to make another double crochet. I'm not going to finish this one. I'm going to start a new one. So I'm going to yarn over, go through, pull up a loop, pull through 2. I'm still not going to finish this one. I'm going to yarn over, go through, pull up a loop, go pull through 2. Just always the last 2. And then you can do that a couple different times. Pull through 2. So I've done it, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, like 4 or 5 times. Maybe I'll do it one more time. Okay, so now I have all of these almost double crochets, but I never finished them, and now I'll take 1 stitch and finish them all, and that gives you this thing. So it doesn't quite look the same as the puff stitch. And then to finish it off, you would do a slip stitch and then break your, then cut off your, do a slip stitch, cut off this yarn, pull it tight. So I just wanted to give you that option, and you can kind of puff it up a little bit. You could even do more of these double crochets or whatever, or try the puff stitch and see how that works. But I just wanted to suggest that you add that before you cut off the yarn. Otherwise, you're cutting off the yarn twice, and why do that? So, okay, there we go. So now I will show you how to start. Wow, that was 9 minutes.